So today, we're super excited to have Mary Frances Heck with us.
Hello.
Welcome to Google.
Thank you so much.
You want to talk about sweet potatoes?
Do I?
I mean, all day.
All day. And in fact, for the last 18 months.
Literally,
yeah,
every
I went
day.
down a rabbit hole and learned everything I think there is to know about sweet potatoes.
So I've been dying to ask, and I want to, two things. One,
Yep.
why? And two, like, what are we going to do here today? Maybe
Okay.
start with that, but then please, I must know why.
So we're going to do a little cooking demo today of two savory dishes that use really different flavor profiles from one another that hopefully give you a new way to look at how to season and how to cook sweet potatoes.
So marshmallows, brown sugar.
Tons of marshmallows, as much cinnamon as possible,
Yeah,
just pumpkin
okay.
pie spice.
Yeah, no, that's shortcut it,
Yeah.
right to pumpkin pies.
Totally. May there never be a sweet potato latte. But although I guess, who knows?
Starbucks heard you say that, and it's already on the menu.
It might be healthy, though.
Better than you.
Which leads me to why I get really excited about sweet potatoes enough to write a book about them. So one thing is that sweet potatoes are incredibly nutritious. They're even considered a superfood. They're high in fiber, high in vitamins. The purple guys, here, I'll actually pass these around if you'd like. Or you can, the ones that have purple flesh and or skin are very high in an antioxidant called anthocyanins, which are the same thing as in blueberries. You know how blueberries are supposed to make you live forever? So we have lots of different colors here, and I can cut more open, but just so you can see. And then the orange ones have a lot of beta-carotene, which help you see in the dark, obviously. And the white ones are for those who are just entering into sweet potato love, like a good gateway sweet potato.
Gateway drug.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then from there, so sweet potatoes, and I'm sure you're all going to fact check me on this. In 2015, sweet potatoes were the number 2 Googled recipe.
Somebody please know that that's true.
And two notable things about that, they were, the number one thing was pepitas, and it is believed in the food community that that was because people don't know what pepitas are.
Truth?
Okay, and chicken has always been the number 1 searched for recipe. Just chicken recipes has always been number 1. So chicken dropped to 3 in 2015, as far as I know.
What happened?
Okay, so people perceive that sweet potatoes are healthier because they are, but
Truly?
also diets
And everybody
like,
knows white potatoes are the devil.
well, right, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so sweet potatoes are allowed by diets like Whole30 and Paleo, and for those who aren't actually subscribing to those diets, they hear things and then think they're going to be doing good by doing part of whatever. Anyway, so you have that one component with diets. The other component you have is the sweet potato fry.
Ah,
Which
available
has
at
swept the
Burger if
nation.
you're ever in Sunnyvale.
Yeah, exactly. So sweet potato fries are elusive because they're never going to be crispy, okay? I tried. We have a few recipes in the book for sweet potato fries, and you have to actually, whatever, I'll get into that later, but that's why they were so searched for, because people are trying to chase a ghost of a crispy sweet potato fry that they will never be able to recreate at home until now.
Uh-oh. Sounds like
So-
we solved it?
There's one solution, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I
It has
can't
a few
wait.
steps, but yeah, you can get there. So I think that's why people got really excited about sweet potatoes and started Googling them. And here we all are today. And so my
I love
publisher,
it.
we were talking about a cool single subject cookbook. And even though it's now 2 years later, as to, it takes a little longer to make a book than it does a website. But so here we are, and people are still passionately filling a room to learn about sweet potatoes.
Well, yeah, you didn't miss the wave. It's still going.
Oh, going strong.
I love it.
About to
All
get bigger.
So what are we going to make today?
Okay, so we're gonna make 2 recipes. One is healthier than the other, just because of the amount of butter in it.
And that's totally appropriate from a Google food perspective. We believe in the 80-20 balance, so we'll give you something good, we'll give you something bad for you. You need both in life.
You don't have to put these in the Skittle jars or like opaque or something.
No, we'll allow the sweet potatoes to exist outside of the frosted window.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so
White potatoes, frosted.
I'm gonna explain what I'm doing here. So this is a sweet potato. It is not a yam, first of all.
Anybody know the difference?
If you know the difference,
She has prizes.
Yams,
you will win a prize.
What?
yams are from a certain state.
Yams are only from a certain state, like bourbon.
Yeah.
You are incorrect.
Ow!
But you are on the right track.
Anybody else want a wager?
Are yams from Asia?
Yams are from Asia?
They are not. But they
Also-
are in Asia. But they're not originally from Asia.
Okay.
Anybody?
Anybody else?
This is really a hard question. Okay, so when I bought these, not these sweet potatoes, but those sweet potatoes at the store, they were all labeled as yams, which is incorrect. Okay, so in the 1930s, this is where you are right, the Louisiana sweet potato growers decided they wanted to market the Beauregard sweet potato different from their competitors in Mississippi, North Carolina, elsewhere that sweet potatoes are grown. So they started calling them yams. Okay, just as like a marketing idea. Yams are a thing that grow elsewhere. They're not sweet potatoes. So they just started calling them yams. And it stuck.
What's a yam?
So what a sweet potato is a root vegetable.
Sure.
Okay, and root vegetables carry fiber, vitamins, sugar.
If you tell me
among
yams
other
grow on
things.
trees, I'm going to fall over.
Yeah, so yams also grow under the ground. There's something called a tuber. You guys might be familiar with another kind of tuber, like a regular potato, solanaceous potato, as I call them, just for the distinction. So sweet potatoes, so yams are, okay, so tubers carry white starch. That's an easy way to remember it. So white starch is metabolized straight to sugar, not good for you. And in fact, once you metabolize a potato, it's a little bit more sugar than a sweet potato ever would be. So you can taste the sugar in a sweet potato. You can't taste the sugar in a potato or in a yam until you metabolize, or it's not converted to sugar.
Sure.
Okay, so a yam has a really dark brown, bumpy, thick skin, and it is creamy white on the inside. And it tastes like starchy, like a regular potato or yucca kind of. It's in the yucca, not technically the family, but whatever. Anyway, so they are not related at all, and they're in fact different anatomical parts of the plant. They do both grow underground.
Fascinating.
So there you go. So this sweet potato.
My takeaway from that is that sweet potatoes are bourbon.
Sweet potatoes
Go
are
with that
bourbon.
Regionally specific.
You know what I had last week was a sweet potato vodka produced in
I'm
North
listening.
Carolina.
I mean, let's
and
hear
they
more.
market it as the best yam vodka on earth.
The only. It's also not made of yams.
Right? Come on, guys. Okay, so what we're gonna make today, the first recipe is a galette, which is kind of like a tart, and it's really easy if you have a mandolin.
And you don't cut your finger off with your mandolin.
Yes, you definitely should use a guard when you're doing this unless you're a trained professional. So basically what you do is set it to about 1/4 inch, and then you take your sweet potato and you just slice it. This is a really great tool for cutting any kind of vegetable into attractive and delicious small slices, thin slices. Okay, so you have your sweet potato, and then we have some puff pastry. And this puff pastry is about a 1 foot square, about a 12-inch square. And it is thawed because it comes from the freezer and France and from butter and a few other places. But what I recommend doing...
Made of baby angels from heaven.
It's delicious.
Super
It is
delicious.
not the same as a croissant, but it's kind of close. So what you're going to do is take your little sweet potato slices and shingle them like so. This would be a great time for another question because it takes a minute.
Anybody?
It's a huge sweet potato.
That sweet potato reminds
Yeah.
you of a football. And
Yeah.
you're wondering why. Where does one find football-sized sweet potatoes?
Usually in food service.
We get big everything here.
Yeah.
Big old bags of rice.
Bigger,
giant sweet
bigger.
potatoes.
So these are some more grocery store friendly size of sweet potatoes.
Actually, more.
It's a
like-
baby.
It's a baby sweet potato.
What you will find that despite their different sizes, that they're pretty much all the same. If they're small or if they're large, they're going to taste pretty much the same.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. That is there flavor kind of profiles differing from variety to variety?
Definitely from variety to variety. I like to classify sweet potatoes by color. I think that's just the easiest way to do it.
Sure.
And by color, I mean the color of the flesh,
The inside, yeah.
the insides, because the skin can be a little bit tricky, and I'll cut some more open in a minute, but sometimes they can be orange on the inside, purple, or white, and that's just easy to not go further than that.
So if the grocery store mislabels them and the skin isn't an indicator, how does one divine the flesh color of a sweet potato?
Okay, I'm not officially recommending this, but scratch a tiny little bit of the skin off with your fingernail or something in the grocery, nick it, and then you'll
Damage
see.
the produce.
So thank you, Mallory, for displaying how to do that. See, it's white. Who knew? A few more slices.
Anybody else have questions while we're... One more time, I'm sorry. Is there a way to pick good sweet potatoes? How do you not get a lemon? Well, I mean, you don't buy an actual lemon.
In a different
but beyond
section
that,
of the produce department. Okay, so a good sweet potato will not have any nicks or bumps on the skin at all.
So no one else should have scratched it to see what the flesh color is.
I said I didn't recommend that.
Check. I think you did officially recommend that.
Officially do not recommend this. So what you want to do is just make sure that the skin is pristine. It also should be heavy for size, which if you think about, I think of water as being heavy for size. I don't think of like chilies as being heavy for size. You want to make sure that occasionally you'll see that like down the core of the sweet potato, it's a little spongy. And what you don't want is that. So if they feel lighter than you think they should, don't buy them.
So heavy, unblemished.
And don't trust the signage about the yam thing, but do trust the signage about the color thing, because they usually are pretty explicit about that.
Okay.
And
Like purple sweet potato, orange
it's going to
sweet
be
potato.
purple on the inside. That's what they're talking about. Okay, so white sweet potatoes, they might be tan on the outside, but they're going to be white on the inside.
Got it.
Another thing that's helpful is if you're in a Japanese grocery store and you see a sweet potato that has this white skin, like this, and you see a sweet potato that has this purple skin, like this, they're opposite on the inside. So,
Only in a Japanese market.
typically.
Okay.
No definitive things with sweet
mean, fair
potatoes.
enough.
You never know what's going to happen. Also, the Japanese sweet potato, here's a bit of trivia. Does anyone recognize this from somewhere? Just like this. Anybody? Anybody? Do you know the answer? It's an emoji! Anyway.
I often wonder how they decide which thing should
Like,
and should
what
not be
should be an
emojis.
emoji? Who
That's another
knows?
conversation entirely.
Entirely. Okay, so
All right, shingled, beautifully
back to
distributed.
our galette. So we are just going to do a little bit of... Ooh, could I have the bacon, please?
Can't tell you how many times I've said that sentence in my life.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, the oven is me. It doesn't care for me, but that's okay.
Okay, so about a quarter of a little onion or a shallot. A little allium action. Sprinkle it over, just like in the picture in the book. You can do it. Okay. And what else? We'll put some thyme. And with thyme, don't worry if you get little baby stems in there, because it doesn't really matter.
I'm so glad you said that because picking
Thyme's horrible.
thyme is maybe my least favorite
the
kitchen
worst
task
kitchen
of
job.
all time. Every time anybody wants to help me cook, guess what they get to do?
Pick herbs.
And then
This
they
is what-
never ask me if they can help me ever again.
Man, people are rough. Okay, sorry I'm moving around so much. So one handy thing to do with bacon, and it's worked really well this time, is if you're gonna cut bacon into little pieces that we call lardons, they're French, put it in the freezer for like 15 minutes before you try to cut it, because otherwise it can be very soft and your knife can slip on the bacon and you can cut yourself pretty badly. See, it worked great. It's super firm. And so once the bacon is a little bit firmed up, just cut it into these little pieces, and they're much easier to cut then.
Does that affect cooking time?
Cutting the bacon,
No, freezing the bacon.
freezing the bacon. Not for something like this.
Par freezing, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel it if you wanted to get gross, but it's still kind of, I mean, it's probably at 31 degrees. It's not deep frozen. Okay, so you
Just
sprinkle
frozen
this
enough to
over.
cut.
Yeah, firm it up. Same thing if you're ever using like salt pork or, yeah, any kind of cured soft meat. There you go.
Pro tip, love it. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
If you're just winging it, not following an exact recipe,
Yeah.
Because people do not do that.
how do you choose between whether to use onion versus shallots?
Oh, how do
Oh,
you choose between
yeah.
whether to use onion or shallot?
So I would use whatever I already have in my kitchen.
There you go.
I love shallots. It has like a mild sweet flavor. They have a mild sweet flavor, but they can be a little trickier to find. And red onion, for something like this, is a pretty comparable flavor. Okay, so I think we have everything on this. Ooh, a little salt and pepper. Okay, this is really easy. Everyone can do this. And I want to see all of your pictures on Instagram.
Hashtag sweet potatoes.
And then you magically put it in your oven. And then it magically appears.
In a different oven. Right over there. Look at that.
And it's just ever so slightly different style. Here you go. And when it's par baked,
amazing.
it's the bacon.
I know. Well, it's the everything.
Okay,
it's probably
so
the sweet potato is what you
here's
should have
what you
said.
get. Yeah, it's the sweet potato, totally. So you get this pretty little tart that's perfect for when your mom comes over for brunch. And it only took you 5 minutes to put together. Ooh, and in fact, the point where I just shoved it in the oven, you can take that whole thing just like that and put it in the refrigerator overnight. So when you wake up, you
Make
have...
ahead.
Make
Love
ahead,
it.
for sure. Okay, so then this is a fun thing to do. You've probably had a pizza like this. Oop, first time cracking an egg. And that's a joke. It's not my first time. First time today, perhaps. Okay, and then once it's at this point, you're going to see it's puffed around the edges, and it's light golden brown. The sweet potatoes are cooked through, and the bacon is crispy. Okay, those are all your little signals. You crack an egg in the middle, and then you put it back in the oven for about 6 minutes. Timer, anyone? Could someone?
Okay, Google. Set a timer for 6 minutes. Done.
Is that real? Okay, great.
That's how we do everything here.
Great job. Thanks, everyone. And Google. Okay, so while that's doing its thing, we're going to make the next thing.
And what is the next thing?
The next thing is something I like to call cracked sweet potatoes with chilies and coconut.
Yeah, I'm liking this list of ingredients.
So we are going to take one of my favorite food groups, which is leftovers. And
I knew I liked you
That-
so much.
this is how this dish actually came to be. I had been working on a book about sweet potatoes, and I had a lot
Had
of
a bunch of sweet potatoes, I bet.
I had a lot of roasted, like I had been roasting sweet potatoes all week, and just till they were, right. So till that recipe was correct. When you're working with purple sweet potatoes, you might want to wear gloves just because they're going to turn your hands purple. They could. Okay, so I opened my fridge. I think I might have had some friends over for brunch or something, and I think everyone was feeling pretty much like they were hungry. And so I was like, what to feed people? And there were the sweet potatoes, and I had a bunch of herbs and some chilies and then some, pantry stuff. And so that's where this came from. And this is a technique that when you have cold leftover roasted sweet potatoes, they're not great for anything except this. They kind of crack. They're not going to be turn into a nice mash. But what they do well is crack, and they're a little dry. And they're you take something that's kind of unappetizing and make it really
Are
appetizing.
we making sweet potato nachos right now?
Basically.
Oh my God, so exciting.
With Thai flavors.
Could not be happier about that outcome.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so one cool thing about getting a few colors of sweet potatoes is that they'll do all the work for you in making the plate look pretty. So you just have to remember to wake up, put them on a plate. So like I said, this is a good breakfast or brunch dish, but also it's great for dinner, next to a roast, or for your vegetarian and or vegan friends who are always hungry but never satisfied. Am I right?
Write that one down, please. It's going in. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I live with a vegetarian, so it's okay that I said that.
We feed many vegans and vegetarians
And I think it's a
daily.
really nice choice for your life, but I think that those who are not partaking in the meat stuff can get really hungry and never feel like they've had enough.
Truer
Yes.
words never spoken.
So I saw you were
So how to peel a sweet potato. Once it's roasted, oftentimes the skin will be loose on the outside, and you can just peel it off like that. You might want to wear gloves. They can be a little sticky, and like I said, for the purple ones especially. That said, if you just had a paring knife and you wanted to peel it off, it usually comes off in strips. It's pretty clean. And if they've been roasted correctly, the skin should the flesh should have dehydrated a little bit and therefore shrunk away from the skin, and so you're left with a loose skin. If you were to peel, we didn't actually peel this sweet potato in front of you all, but I would just recommend a regular vegetable peeler, and you could go around once or twice, depending on how many of these little bumps and eyes that you get. You can also totally eat sweet potato skin. Some people just don't love the texture. And this we could have the skin in this dish as well. I just don't love the texture. Sorry, YouTube. Okay, so then you make a little vinaigrette kind of a thing. So far, this is what we've done.
Beautiful.
Put sweet potatoes on a plate. Anyone can do this. I hope. Okay, so get our pan a little warm, and we are gonna melt, this is coconut oil. And once it melts, it's gonna smell really good.
So, tell me, I was wondering earlier,
Yes.
sweet potatoes, are they seasonal or can you really eat them all year round?
You can you can definitely get them all year round. And because of
I
the
know
way
you
that
can, but like, should you?
you should, I think you should.
Great.
Yeah. You should eat them every day. You will find, okay, so they're harvested truly, let's say in October. That's relatively true for most of this country. They are also harvested in other parts of the world at different times of year, just depending on their growing calendar. And so it is possible to find relatively fresh sweet potatoes all year round. You also can find sweet potatoes that are like a year old and have that weird spongy thing going on in the middle. And so what I recommend is if you're between the months of like July and that fresh season of October, as soon as you get home with your bag of sweet potatoes, cut one in half. And you'll see, and if they're lousy, return them or just don't. You can eat them, they're just not going to be as delicious. They are super shelf stable. They are held in storage facilities that are going to keep them fresh until they get to market. I recommend not buying them more than about 2 weeks before you want to use them, because they will have been out of that storage facility and sitting in a grocery store. So also when you get them home, store them in a basket. I think that's the perfect thing to store them in. They need to have a little airflow. You never want to let them get wet or cold or too hot. Right in the middle.
Not wet, not cold, not hot. Airflow.
Airflow.
It's totally doable.
Just like a person, like where a person wants to be.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's pretty much
Okay.
how I feel.
So we have melted.
Our 6 minutes is up.
Thank you very much. Melted coconut oil. That's not quite hot enough. It should sizzle when it hits the pan. So I just threw some ginger in there. We'll give it a second. And just like that, I think we need one more minute. One more minute on the egg. Okay, great. So it's sizzling. And we'll add some little rings of chilies. And if you don't like spicy food, I recommend you don't put chilies in this. And we have some scallion whites. That's a cool thing you can do when you're chopping scallions, is chop the white bulb, essentially, like the first 4 inches near the root. Take the root off, slice that white, separate it from the green. Use the white when you're cooking, and then use the green as a garnish. It's kind of a simple thing to do that can kind of elevate your food a little bit at home. Simple touch.
Love it.
Okay.
This smells like heaven.
So we've got our ginger, our chilies, and our scallion whites cooking in this oil. And what you want to look for is when they start, the chilies and the ginger start to become sort of translucent. We don't really want to brown anything. We're just looking for them to be soft. And really for all of their beautiful aroma to have been released into the room. Okay, and then you turn off the stove because we're done. See, that was super easy. So for today's demo, we're going to do it vegan style. Ordinarily, I would use a little bit of fish sauce in this dish. Today, we're going to use a little bit of soy sauce. It's just a splash. If you don't like either of those things, you can also just use a large pinch of salt. But it's value-added salt, basically. And then we have some brown sugar, again, so that the dish remains vegan. We could also use honey. And once the sugar sort of starts to dissolve, we're going to add lime juice. And that's what makes it a citronette as opposed to a vinaigrette. And just give it a little stir. And taste it. You want this to be savory, which means salt, as opposed to a lot of sugar. Okay, so now we have our vinaigrette or citronette that has everything in it. We're gonna spoon it over the sweet potatoes, like so. For a total of 30 seconds of cook time, people might be impressed.
It's visually stunning. It smells amazing.
Hope it tastes
You're
okay.
hitting on several important components.
Okay, so once your warm citronette is on there, we are going to dress it up with some toasted coconut and those scallion greens that we kept separate so they stay vibrant and delicious and crunchy. And then we're going to tear a little mint over. You could also use basil or Thai basil or any soft, tender herb that you have. Cilantro would be awesome in this. Whatever you have in the fridge.
Truly, truly beautiful. I mean, that's a stunning dish, especially, as you were saying, for the
sweet potatoes.
vegan who might feel neglected.
The sweet potatoes did, you saw, all the work. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. Great side dish. Great any time of the day when you're
Gorgeous.
ripping it out of the fridge because you're starving.
What do you think about that egg? Maybe done?
I think you might be right. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is actually perfect. It took a little bit longer than the foggy goggles. Wow, guys. Okay, so what you want to see. So our egg is now essentially over easy, okay, from the oven. What you want to see is the white is still a little jiggly. As it sits here and kind of cools, it's going to firm up, but your yolk will still be runny.
Looks
Visual, helpful?
perfect.
Anybody here not like eggs? Just a question.
I couldn't tell by your face. You looked like you were super into it.
So what's really appetizing for many people is this thing. When you have the egg yolk and it runs all over the place.
You could like take some of that
Onto your
pastry,
tart.
dunk it right
Exactly,
in there. That looks like a really fantastic option.
All right, so there you have it. 2 sweet potato dishes that you know how to make.
They're gorgeous and amazing.
Set this up here.
Did you guys realize you get to eat some of it, which makes it even better? Super impressive. I think we're getting close to being able to serve. Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, more questions. Yes.
So for the nacho thing,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's exactly. Yeah.
did you heat up your sweet potatoes beforehand, or were they?
Did you heat
These
the
sweet potatoes are room temperature, which I like, but you could use this thing called a microwave to heat them up for about 30 seconds. You could also
Should take the
toss
chill
them in a
out.
pan. It's just the pretty colors will start to bleed together. So it's nice to warm them up separately if possible. Yes.
Sure.
Adding on to that question, you said that those were baked. Would you ever boil a sweet potato?
Would
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
boil a sweet potato?
If you'll turn to the first chapter. So the first chapter, I sort of tried to address how to cook sweet potatoes when you want to cook them with no other ingredients, for example. It's called in the rough, which just means all you're going to use is a sweet potato and occasionally a little bit of oil. And so it overview recipes for how to roast them in coals, which I highly recommend. Really, really delicious. It kind of has that like toasted marshmallow thing without the marshmallows.
Without the marshmallows.
No marshmallows allowed.
'Cause you don't need them.
But the caramel will start to bubble out of the sweet potato and char in the, oh, so good.
I'm sold.
And then boiled sweet potatoes, which you can then turn into sweet potato puree. It's fine also to make sweet potato puree roasting them in the microwave, which can be quick. And some people don't like microwaves. I'm not one of those people. I think that they really make life easy, especially when you're cooking for a family. So you roast them in the microwave for approximately 5-minute increments for 2 or 3 increments. So anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your microwave. Then you scoop them open, take the flesh out, and then you use the sweet potato puree for eating or baking, which we'll get into in a second. Are we okay on time?
Yeah, I don't really know because I'm having a good time. And
Okay,
Laura will tell me if we're good on time. Yeah, we're good.
Flash. Okay, so then sweet potato fries, and we kind of outline the easy way and the hard way. And the easy way is just oven roasting, okay? It's really easy.
Not
you can do it.
crispy.
Sort of crispy for the first 5 minutes.
Ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but very satisfying.
Crispy adjacent.
A quick side dish.
Okay.
Yeah, highly
Fair
recommend.
enough.
Highly recommend.
And then the hard way.
The hard way involves cutting them, freezing them, and then dipping them into a cornstarch slurry, which is a dissolved, modified food starch. And what that does, where sweet potatoes don't have the same amount of starch as white potatoes or solanaceous potatoes, it provides the starch on the outside of the fry to get that crunch. It's essentially sort of like a tempura batter, but it's really thin, and it just coats the outside. They also will stay crispy for like an hour after they're
That
cooked.
is amazing.
You have to fry, get over your fear of frying. You can do it. Open a window, though, if you're in an apartment.
Run a fan, open a window.
Yeah. Which brings me next to chips, which are very tasty as well. Very easy to make and way better than anything you can buy.
Noted.
Yeah, way better. You soak them in water, ice water, which helps to sort of equalize every slice of sweet potato and washes off any surface starch.
Okay.
And then you dry them and deep fry them, and they're really great.
So many thoughts.
Okay, I can go on.
Yeah, you could go on.
Okay, so purple sweet potatoes, something about chips with purple sweet potatoes is that they're also really good, but the pigment that makes sweet potatoes purple is water soluble.
Oh.
So we were talking about...
You can wash away the purple?
You can wash away the purple.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's not cute while it happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of a gray purple thing that happens. It's really gross. So if you tried to just boil purple sweet potatoes, the water would turn purple, the sweet potatoes would bleed out some of their color, and it's just kind of sad. You have this beautiful vegetable, showcase it the best way possible. So
Seriously?
you can roast them whole like this, where they're just cooked in their jackets and they're not in contact with any water.
I really like that you just said jackets.
That's what you
Sweet
said.
potato got a cute pea coat for fall.
Actually, if you go to Ireland, or one time I went to Ireland and I ordered potatoes in their jackets, and they were just boiled little baby new potatoes in
Oh my
their.
gosh. Cutest menu
It's
item
a
ever.
great way to call them. So, but deep frying. So if you slice the sweet potatoes, even though you're soaking them in water, they still have enough pigment, and then you fry them, and you have these like incredible purple chips. So fun, so easy to make for a party. You can dust them with like curry powder or something. Really, really tasty.
Mentally taking notes.
Yes. So
Love it.
after you've boiled your orange sweet potatoes, or white ones sometimes, you can mash them and take the resulting puree. And if you'll turn with me to page 105, there's a whole chapter on how to make bread with sweet potatoes. Breads and baked goods. So you have biscuits, babka, waffles. I mean,
Stop.
you could go on.
I mean,
Sticky buns, cinnamon rolls, dinner rolls. Highly recommend for Thanksgiving. Yeah, like this. You've seen.
oh, pull apart and everything.
So yeah, you can do a lot with sweet potatoes.
Clearly. I mean, I think you've proven that. How is it? Delicious?
Is it okay?
Everybody got super quiet, and that's always the best sign when the food's around. Does anybody else? Yeah, question. How do you avoid
That's
the
a great question.
misbranding yam scam?
And yep, that's exactly what it is. It's a yam scam.
See what I did there?
So today I was going to bring you a yam so that we could look at them together and realize that they are in fact not at all related visually. I couldn't find one.
That's what I was going to say. Are they really present in most grocery stores?
I went to 6 grocery stores yesterday.
So no is the answer.
I went to everything from Safeway to a Japanese grocery store to a Latino grocery store. You could maybe find them in a Caribbean grocery store, which I didn't find a Caribbean grocery store.
The only place
so
I've seen a true yam is the Berkeley Bowl.
There you go. Yeah, or maybe
But
in the
they have
Mission.
all of the things, so.
Yeah, I found yucca and a couple other
Yeah.
sort of similar.
So risk
Tubers?
is low.
Risk
of
is low.
getting yam scammed.
Point being, when you go to the grocery store and sweet potatoes are labeled as yams, don't worry, you have not purchased a yam.
I
Found a
feel
yam.
pretty safe.
Yeah.
I think it'll be okay.
They'll never be in a typical grocery store, or not yet. Maybe in the
Fingers
future.
crossed.
Maybe in the future.
Anything else? Anybody? Are different sweet
actually
potatoes
are.
better for different applications?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great question. And I point your attention to the introduction for a little bit more further explanation. But I mentioned before that I typically think of sweet potatoes by color of their flesh. And you'll find that orange sweet potatoes typically have more moisture inherent than white sweet potatoes or purple sweet potatoes. And so they're really great. So when you think of a high moisture or a low moisture item, you want to cook it the opposite way. So you want something to be, especially if you want something to be moist and toothsome and have a great texture when it's done cooking, unless you're frying, which is a different thing. But so I really love to like roast whole orange sweet potatoes just to have like as a side dish. If you roast a purple sweet potato, you'll actually get more of what you're eating right now, which is a little bit dry. I think it's almost the flavor and the texture of a chestnut. It's leaning more in that really toothsome, almost dry, but not unpleasantly. So I think that I love purple sweet potatoes baked in their jackets for this type of application. But if you wanted to get a puree, I'd suggest cooking them in tiny little bit of water, with a lid jammed on it, and they'll essentially steam, and that's a great way to do it. So steaming them, and then white sweet potatoes are awesome. They're quite dry. We don't actually have one here today. We have a sample of one. And I'll cut these open so you can see the insides. White sweet potatoes tend to be quite dry, and I really love them in braises. This is a white sweet potato. And this is a variety called Hannah, and like it's a palindrome, Hannah. And the variety you'll find on the East Coast is usually O. Henry. There are 100 varieties of sweet potatoes at least, so don't worry if you don't know their exact names. This is a garnet. And so you'll find the rusty red typically leads to orange flesh, except for in the case of the Japanese sweet potato. So as you can see, the flesh is really similar, but the skins are very different from one another. Just gonna keep walking around to kill time, There you go. And then, so white sweet potatoes and Japanese sweet potatoes are wonderful braised. So I love cooking them with, I think our first tart's done. Look at that. So you can cook them in a flavorful liquid. I love cooking them with like sausage and beans in a like a braise would mean like about that much liquid in the bottom of a pot with other flavorful things, and the white sweet potatoes absorb the flavor beautifully. And you'll find that if you tried to substitute orange sweet potatoes in that recipe, there's a recipe for braised sausage and lentils, that the orange sweet potatoes are going to absolutely fall apart in a braise. White sweet potatoes will keep their shape, and they'll become almost silky. Really nice.
Is the canned yam a yam? I'm going to guess no.
So a fun fact, as someone who's now written a book about sweet potatoes, the first sweet potato I ever ate was from a can.
Oh!
And I strong-armed my dad into buying them for Thanksgiving. He was like, it's not part of their family lexicon to have sweet potatoes or foodicon.
Okay.
To have sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving because my family's not from the South. So it's one of those typical recipes that you find that's like an heirloom recipe for casseroles and pies.
Yeah.
And so yes, my first sweet potato was a candy yam, but my recipes are not Southern-based recipes. They're really how to incorporate them into the way we eat now. And they're not, you could certainly serve some of these dishes during the holidays, but the intention is not that they are for the holidays, for every day.
Awesome. So the canned yam, not a yam, sweet potato.
Not a yam, a sweet potato.
The yam scam continues, even in canned product. Any other questions?
Butter.
What's the best fat to make them
I love
super creamy?
butter.
Every bit of the butter.
Sweet potatoes love butter.
They told me.
There's a sidebar in there somewhere that's literally is like sweet potato, hearts, butter. And it's wonderful with coconut oil, I think, and anything else that has inherent flavor. I'm not the craziest about olive oil with sweet potatoes, like a really good extra virgin olive oil. Save that for regular potatoes. I think sweet potatoes have a lot of
regular potatoes. Either way.
Oh, I mean, whatever you want. Oh, here's a good one, too. So regular potatoes are often grown using a large quantity of chemicals. They're part of conventional farming, so they have either herbicides or pesticides. There are a couple of bugs that really love to eat solanaceous potatoes. And, just in order for there to be a crop, it needs to have some chemical intervention, which, sometimes we all do.
Sometimes.
It is not a great habit to be in, to eat, particularly like russet. I'm not downing any kind of food. I love potatoes. I read a whole column about potatoes. Obsessed with potatoes personally.
Do sweet potatoes know you cheated on them with white potatoes?
White potatoes came first, okay?
Oh!
But sweet potatoes can be grown without much chemical intervention. They don't have a ton of natural pests in the wild, so to speak. That is changing a little bit due to monoculture, but if you look at these lists like the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, typically potatoes tend to be on the Dirty Dozen and sweet potatoes tend to be a Clean 15 product, which is great for a socioeconomic approach to good eating because you don't have to seek out organic sweet potatoes. You can just buy regular sweet potatoes and save the buck.
So they're a superfood that is naturally low in type of pesticides and really affordable for everybody.
Really affordable for everybody. And so I think it's one of the superfoods that, we hear about all these different things, but they're really expensive for the most part. It's really hard to incorporate superfoods in your everyday diet. And so that's why I feel very passionately also about people eating sweet potatoes, learning about how nutritious they are, and then being able to incorporate them every day.
Can we call the sweet potatoes publicists and have them like hype the superfood angle a bit more? Because I feel like this is the first time I've actually heard that.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I think in particular the purple sweet potatoes are one of the most nutritious things you can eat. I mean, of all the just things that come right out of a plant or out of the ground, they're super nutritious.
Wow, that's a great
Yeah.
piece of information. I really do hope that gets more widely understood.
And one more cool thing about why they're so healthy. So that sweet potatoes are really high in fiber, which is great for diets that are for folks who have like diabetic diets or maybe high cholesterol or heart issues. So they're trying to eat more fiber, which helps to. The best way to describe it, like everyone's like, eat more fiber, and you're like, why? Because it kind of slows down and evens out digestion. So when you eat a bunch of food, because you only have a little time to grab lunch, delicious as it may be, your insulin will spike, right? But the more good stuff that you eat that has fiber in it, and I'm not talking about Metamucil, I'm talking about like foods with
naturally
fiber.
occurring
Yeah.
organic fiber, yeah.
Although get it where you can. But sweet potatoes have the ability to kind of even out digestion, and so you're not having an insulin spike and then a crash later on. You'll find that after having a meal with a sweet potato as a side dish, or any of these 60 recipes in this book, that you kind of feel even keeled afterwards.
Sustained energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's important. I think especially we think about that a lot here because we feed you lunch and then need you to go be geniuses for the second half of the day. So sustained energy is really, really important.
Yeah, they're great for that.
Awesome. Any more questions? I feel like I learned a shocking amount today. I don't know if you guys agree. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Do you have a favorite kid?
Okay, so as most parents will tell you, yes.
We won't tell you which one, but we will admit we have one.
I think one of the cool recipes in this book that I learned a lot while I was cooking through the recipes is some of the baked goods. It's really interesting to see what mashed sweet potato or grated sweet potato can add to a dish without overtly being sweet potato-y. So you can add it to the bread dough, for example, make the rolls or sandwich loaf. It'll stay fresh for 3 or 4 days just sitting on your countertop. It's a beautiful orange color. It's very appetizing looking. It tastes and feels like a Martin's potato roll, so it has that squish factor. And the sweet potato naturally works sort of like a dough conditioner, and so you have this really nice texture that normally you'd only get from a commercial bakery where they have access to some of the ingredients that they might add, or specialized flours with different levels of protein. So it just does this magical thing. And so there's like a sponge cake, gingerbread, all these different baked goods that use mashed sweet potato in them. I really encourage you to try it out. It's kind of akin to how applesauce or zucchini could, for a quick bread anyway, could increase the moisture while reducing the fat. But sweet potatoes also have a little bit of starch, so you can also reduce the white flour in some of the recipes.
It's like a win-win-win. Well, I want to know, what was the most surprising thing you learned writing this book, all the way down your sweet potato rabbit hole?
George Washington Carver had almost as many sweet potato inventions as he did peanut inventions.
Sweet potato. Give me an example of a sweet potato
Oh my gosh,
invention.
on the spot now. He like in the dozens of uses for sweet potatoes. Everything from
Okay.
Uses.
I thought you were talking about like a machine that runs on sweet potatoes.
Well, I guess you could get energy from them.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah.
Plug in, run
I mean,
your clock?
he tried it anyway. We're not running our cars on sweet potatoes yet. Actually, it's way better to probably eat them.
Yeah,
run yourself on
to
that.
your body.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.